Hi, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday webinar. I'm so excited that you're joining us. My name is Tara Garrity. I am the founder and president of Making Cancer Fun, and I am so excited about today's podcast because we have the amazing and beautiful and talented Jackie
Thank
McMullen here, and
you.
she is the voice that you hear on the A.L.L Mamma Podcast and is a cancer mama herself. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about her journey. She's kind of newer in the cancer world, and to give her perspective, and her son and her little one, Ollie, was so cute. He left his name on my voicemail the other day. I was like, oh, so sweet. But I know that you are currently like in the midst of
Yeah.
being a cancer mama and kind of new to the cancer world, but have done amazing things and are now already giving back and helping other people. So kind of tell us a little bit about Ollie.
Sure. So first off, Tara, thanks so much for having me on. I'm so excited just to be a part of your world and reach out to all the people that are working with you and working with Making Cancer Fun. I actually have the book right here. This has not left my side because it's been such a great resource. So yeah, just to kind of back up a little bit, my son Ollie was diagnosed at 21 months with acute lymphoblastic leukemia, B cell. We were very, very lucky that we're very close to the hospital here in central Massachusetts. So we felt like we caught it very early, but no one's ever prepared to hear that news. So it was really quite a shock. We really thought that my husband and I, we thought that he was anemic. He was showing signs of, just being really lethargic, and he stopped eating for a week and didn't want to play at all and just looked very jaundiced. So, yeah, we kept bringing him to the doctor since I would say mid-December, and then eventually everything kind of came to a head the Friday before February vacation. My husband and I were both teaching at the time, and we brought him into a Ready Med. They tried to test his blood. They couldn't. The next day, we brought him into our pediatrician. They tested his blood and immediately said, you need to go to the emergency room. So that kind of kicked off everything into this frantic tornado of what's wrong with my baby. And even just talking about it now, it's so emotional. You relive it every time that you tell it. But we really have come so far, and Ollie is now almost 8 months into treatment. He's almost 2.5 years old, and I'm really proud to say that he is thriving. He is just an amazing little boy, and I'm so blessed to be his mom. And he is just learning new words every day. So that's what I'm choosing to focus on right now, is what he can do and what we are able to do, and just realize this is temporary. This is not going to define our family. This is something that we're going through right now, but I know that we're going to come out on the other side of this.
I think
So
it's interesting. What I heard you say was that I'm choosing to focus on what he can do,
mm-hmm.
because, and it's so curious to me, right? Like we all kind of come to this place, what I, call club cancer in different ways. Like some of us, our kids were sick, in my situation, Emily was sick for a while. It sounds like Ollie had stuff going on. And so you kind of aren't blindsided. You're like, okay, there's something going on. Obviously you're blindsided when you find out it's cancer. But you knew something was going on. And then I hear other parents who had nothing going on, they had no idea. And then all of a sudden it's like, and so I do think there's a tendency to focus on all of the things that we're losing, that we're missing out on, that we can't do. And particularly at 21 months, because, one of the grief that I went through in the end was kind of going, wow, I never really had like preschool age with my daughter. Like I see what my nephews now have with my sister-in-law, and I didn't know what I was missing until I saw what she has with them, kind of, And so I love what you said about him choosing on what he can do. So what made you make that choice? And when you say that I'm choosing on what he can do, like, what does that mean for you?
Yeah. So, Tara, you and I have talked a lot just about personal development and personal growth, and we're both in the direct sales business. So, having really that background of being resilient and knowing, that okay, I have a toolkit. I'm going to build a tool. At first I was like, what the heck? What do I do? So
Mm.
I'm a data person. Throw, a million different articles or case studies at me that I just need to read everything in my own time. And that kind of helped me gain a little sense of control when I was going through something that I had no control over. But focusing on, okay, the only thing that I can control right now is my reaction and what I can do to help Ollie in this situation that we're in right now. And, just to give credit to my husband, we've really been a very strong team, and we've been able to bounce off of each other. Of course, we were both completely devastated when we heard this news, but it's funny because his reaction was a lot different than mine in that moment that we got even the prognosis that it could have been an autoimmune disorder, could have been a virus or leukemia. I lost it, and he was more like, okay. And I was like, what? Like, how is that your reaction when it could be the worst of the worst? But him and I have been together for over 10 years. So we just were able to kind of hold on to each other. And literally, when one was ready to faint, the other one was right there to catch each other, and then vice versa. So really just having like a strong support system and strong relationship with my husband, and saying like, we're going to get through this shitstorm. Sorry for my
Yeah.
language, but like, that's really what it was. And even just being able to talk about it now, my love language is words of affirmation. And my husband's is quality time. So kind of diving into like, okay, what does he need in order for me to be a good spouse and support him, and
Mm.
in order to get through such a tough time. I wanted data, but my husband at one point, he was like, you need to stop and you need to watch Game of Thrones and watch all
Mm.
11 seasons with me. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Like, I need to put away the books. Like, I just need to, and that, that balance right there, I'm so grateful that he said, come on, let's go sit on the couch and just binge watch the show. And that's what my heart needed. I just needed to escape and then come back to
Yeah.
it. Yeah. But,
And that's
I,
interesting that to share that you had such totally different reactions, because I think that, if you lined up 50 people, right, we probably have 50 different ways that we reacted, or what that experience is like, or how we coped. And it's important that we don't judge that
mhm.
reaction. Your reaction of devastation isn't a better or worse, or that you love your son more or less than somebody else's reaction. Might be
Mhm.
like, okay, what are we going to do?
Right.
Because I think we do have a tendency to judge that. Well, why isn't that person as hysterical? Do they not care as much? Or why are they
Right.
reacting that way? Or why didn't I react that way? Why didn't I cry?
Right. Or they
And that,
processing what just happened.
yeah. And that, it's kind of like this idea of like, well, what's normal? And I keep thinking, but childhood cancer is so abnormal. Like, it's such not a normal situation that there is no normal. And
Mhm.
so however you respond is okay.
Yep.
That's okay. And it sounds like, what's great with you guys is each other's different personalities and stuff. Um, so how have you found, because I know you've done a really great job with focusing on keeping it still really fun for Ollie, and ALL really, when I just think from a mom standpoint, like particularly for boys, that is such a long process. That is like a 3-year. I mean, this is not just, let's
Mm-mm.
get through the next
Mhm.
year or so. So from your mindset, how are you kind of already mentally preparing yourself that this is not an easy or quick fix,
Yeah.
that this is going to be your life for the next 3 years?
Yeah. So definitely coming to terms with, okay, this is where we're at and we're going to make it work. That is really like my first step. And my husband and I are on the same page. Like, this is where we're at. We're going to focus on what we can do. And we were really able to immediately just get such an amazing support system.
Mm.
Ollie was already involved in early intervention for speech. So just to have that as a starting point, and then have our social worker hook us up with so many amazing resources, um, that really was the way that we were able to kind of be like, okay, well, we have all these people that are storming us. And for me, that was filling up my heart. And for my husband, it was a little overwhelming, but just kind of having all those support systems in place to know, like, okay, if you guys ever get to this point, we're right here. Here's this resource. You can reach out here, check out this. And again, I'm a data person, so pile me up with stuff and I will go through it. And just being able to simply have a Google Drive. We set up an independent email address where all of Ollie's information is stored, say like doctor's appointments. We have all of our questions on a Google Drive, and everything is in folders. Again, I'm very linear and very systematic because that kind of gives me a sense of control of, like, I know exactly where this file is. I can reach it on my phone. Someone else can find it on their phone, and I can access it anywhere. And really just having a Google Doc of like running questions every time I go to clinic. What about this? What about this? And typing in the answer so that when we come home, I can tell my husband, here's the doctor's answer. And it's not repeating yourself all the time.
And I love that too, because I'm sure you think of questions and then you get there and you're in the moment and you forget about it. And what I love about the Google Doc that I haven't thought about before is, we say like bring a notebook, right? But what if you forget the notebook, or what if you don't have the notebook on you, but we always have our phones. I also really love, and I just want to make sure that everybody heard this because this was brilliant, of setting up a separate email. Yeah. And that's not something that I even thought to do. And that's brilliant because all of your emails get so lost or they get in spam. And the other thing I would think too is just from like kind of a self-protection that, if you're in work mode and I'm just thinking, okay, I'm in work mode and my mind is here. Do I really want to get that ding? All of a sudden now there's cancer thrown in my face versus saying like, okay, now I'm going to go open up that shoebox. I'm going to go deal with this right now. And maybe being able to give some boundaries between that, your life doesn't become thinking about cancer all of the time. So I think there's a lot of benefits to having that separate email address outside of just the organizational piece.
Yeah.
That's really, really smart.
It's been so helpful to have, the online email address. And also I literally have a 4-inch binder. That was the first thing that I said when we heard the diagnosis. Of course, I was so distraught, but through my tears, I told my mom, I need a binder, I need page protectors, I need dividers, I need a highlighter, and I need lots of pens and sticky notes. And that way I could just kind of go through, whether the doctors are saying like, sign this consent form. Okay, I need a copy of that. And then being able to file it away. And I literally have it on my kitchen counter, just right there. And I have, a picture. We had to go to the ER. So he had to get, the needle put in his power port, but I guess in the ER, it's a different size than they use in the clinic. So just learning as I go, like, okay, I need the wrapper. I'm going to take a picture and throw it up on the Google Drive so that if any point we unexpectedly go to the ER, which has happened, they'll ask me like, what needle size? I'm like, hold on, I got it right on my phone and I can show them. And just having that at my fingertips, makes me feel a lot better, where I have all the paperwork, I have everything on the Google Drive. And even, it's not just all medical stuff. It's me wondering about, okay, essential oils, like how do those work? Are they toxic? Like, would this be helpful? And just being able to put them in files and organize my brain, and other different, alternative things that may ease some of the side effects that he has when he's on treatment.
And that's really great because what I love that I keep hearing from you is that these are tools that you're using to feel more control. And we know, like, studies show that when we can feel like we're in control, even when we're not, but if we feel like we're in control, it lowers rates of, stress and PTSD and things like that. And so, for me, the fun was the control. And what I'm hearing from you is kind of knowing that I have access to all of the stuff that I need, knowing that I can reach these things when I need to reach them makes me feel like I have control in an uncontrollable situation. And so it's really great kind of knowing yourself and knowing, for somebody else that might totally overwhelm them and they might be like, oh my gosh, a colored binder and highlighters, like I can't even deal. But somebody else might feel like, okay, that makes me feel better. And knowing, again, there is like no right or wrong in this cancer world, right? I started with the binder, and then, we were impatient so much
Right.
that, and we had so many notes that now I currently have, just boxes and boxes of
Right.
hospital records in my attic somewhere that I hope I never need to see
know.
again. Right. And I wish I was more organized like you. So
Well,
it's, I think you do your best, but what
yeah.
I'm hearing for you is this is such a great way for you to have a sense of peace and calm, and to feel like I control, like we had somebody talking about controlling your controllables,
Yep.
and this is something you can control. So, what are some of the things that that have, like, obviously drastically changed in your life, but how have you been able to maintain some more normalcy, knowing again that this season's going to be a little bit longer? You can't just kind of up and change life completely. So what have been some of the things that you guys have been able to very proactively keep normal for him so that he's still getting to be a kid?
Yeah. So we're really lucky because we live near extended family, and he has two cousins, actually three cousins that are about his age. So when everybody's feeling well, any opportunity that we can for him to be around his cousins is the best. And I just, keep thinking of different ways. Like, obviously in the summer I was training for my half marathon. So we were outside. I called it mommy's classroom because we were just outside all the time at our trail, and looking at nature, being outside. We have a park near our house right down the street that has a lot of, like, it sounds really funny, but it has a lot of like little holes in the trees. And so we call them Winnie the Pooh holes. We go to the Winnie the Pooh park all the time, and Ollie loves his lawnmower. So in the summer, it was a lot easier because my husband was home, he wasn't teaching, and we were just outside all the time. And now that the weather's getting colder, I started kind of planning, okay, like one day a week we have to go. We're very lucky to have this place called Cherry's House, which is right here in Worcester. And it's a home that people can live, their families can live in while they're receiving treatment if they're, from another country, or they had to move from another state and they don't have housing. But they also have a really cool playground outside that's all clean, and he can be a kid there. And then they have a really cool playground. And we're really fortunate enough to have a volunteer who's a retired teacher. And she comes and she plays with him for a little bit.
Mm.
And I always say, like, oh, I'm going to get so much done. But of course I don't. But we call it the big Mickey Mouse Clubhouse because there's a huge Mickey on the wall. And we make it a big deal, like, oh, we're going to Mickey Mouse Clubhouse today. And and it kind of just makes me feel better because I'm like, oh yeah, like, even though there aren't any kids there right now, just knowing, like, okay, this is a different change of environment and different stimulation for him,
Mm.
kind of just gives me like a piece that, like, okay, he's still interacting with other people other than me, which is good for him. To be accustomed to, just like if he was in daycare, I kind of think of like, okay, if we ever have like the speech therapist that comes or the massage therapist that comes to our home, I'll chat with them for a little bit, but then I'll say, okay, like, I'm gonna, go fold laundry in the other room because I want him to solely focus on you. And I don't
Mm.
want to be a distraction. So in my mind, I'm like, if he was at daycare, this is what he would be doing, and I would be
Mhm.
out of the room. So, which is good for him and it's good for me because I can get some dishes done and some laundry done. So just really thinking of it in terms of knowing that I'm doing the best that I can to make sure that he's getting all the supports that he needs right now, and knowing that when everybody's healthy, we can be around people. It's important for him. And my husband and I discuss this all the time. Like, how is he doing socially and emotionally? And just being able to talk with other moms that have toddlers. He's my only baby, so I've never had a toddler before. So figuring out, like, okay, what, a normal kid, what are other moms doing? There's no book like, oh yeah, if A's happening, do B, try it. If it doesn't work, try
Yeah.
something else. But my way of coping with everything is really just been continuously reaching out, even when it feels uncomfortable.
So tell me more about that.
So just case in point, like, my husband, he has a DJ business. So he was DJing a wedding this past weekend, and my cousin has a little boy who's the same age as Ollie. And I I was feeling really isolated, and I'm like, this feels really uncomfortable, but I'm just going to see what she's up to and just ask her if she wants to come over with his little cousin. And then right away she was like, oh my God, come on over. And I'm like, okay, great. Cause I feel really isolated right now. And just being able to voice that and putting it into words, and even though it feels a little uncomfortable, just stepping into it and be like, this is the situation I'm in and I need this like right now. And if she wasn't available, okay, let's FaceTime, an auntie or an uncle or cousins. And just the FaceTime thing has been great because that kind of just makes you feel like you're still involved in people that maybe aren't feeling so well and 100%, but yeah, I'm choosing not to focus on the long road right now. I'm choosing to focus on week to week.
Okay.
Because we've just finished Frontline, which is the first 6 to 9 months of treatment with A.L.L. And 2 weeks from now, he'll go in and he'll get blood counts because with leukemia, everything is blood count dependent, much different than what Emily had with the tumor. It was always scans to figure out how she's doing. But depending on the blood counts, if he meets a certain minimum requirement with platelets and with absolute neutrophils, which is the level of your immune system, he can start receiving our long-term maintenance, which will go on for the next 2.5 to 3 years. So I'm really chunking it, and that's how I'm getting through it. Because if I think of it, until he's 5.5 in kindergarten, my mind can't go there yet. Yeah. We have to focus week to week and focus on what he's accomplishing right now, because he really is thriving. So
I think you have you're giving really, really great specific self-care tips for parents. And I think one of the things that you had said earlier is really understanding that like you're kind of the mirror for him, that how he's going to experience it, how you are, and that you really know yourself. Like, okay, I can handle this much.
Not
I
always.
can handle a week.
Not always.
Right? I know, right?
There's definitely times where I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, but it sounds like you're really being very proactive. And that's what I think so much of us, when we're in that situation, we feel like everything is reactive. Like we have no control. All this stuff is happening to us. And one of the reasons I was excited to have you on and to share is because I've really seen you take a much more proactive approach. Like, okay, what can I do? How can I make this work? There's gonna be days he can't see anybody, but let's take advantage of the days that he can. One of the things that when you talked about reaching out to a friend because you were feeling isolated, and I would say this is exasperated when we're in the cancer community, but in general, like people in our country in general, studies are showing that we feel more isolated, we feel more alone, we feel more lonely. And that's something that a lot of people struggle with who are not in the cancer community. And then that becomes worse when we're kind of surrounded in this cancer community.
It's heightened.
But 2 things I wanted to make sure our listeners hear is that you've searched out a lot of resources. And it sounds like you had a really wonderful social worker. And for somebody who maybe doesn't have that, there is the Hope Portal, which is the Coalition Against Childhood Cancer has created. It's called the Hope Portal. And it's really a place where you can go and you can search for resources, whether they're financial, emotional support, things like that. And the idea is that we have all of these great nonprofits that provide wonderful resources, but it's trying to find them sometimes is like a needle in the haystack. And so encouraging people to just go on and, register their nonprofit there or register their support. And so now then that portal becomes a place that anybody can go to. And by different topics, search the resources that you're looking for.
And so if I'm actually writing it down.
Yeah, it's great. It's called the Hope Portal. And it's not up yet. We are, Making Cancer Fun is a member of the Coalition Against Childhood Cancer, but their link is not on our website yet. So you can go to their website and get that, or maybe even just search Hope Portal. But that's a great place if you don't have a social worker who's giving you lots of great resources and stuff. And you also so I call that an SOS, which is you seek out support. And I don't think we do that enough, because as women particularly, we tend to feel bad asking for help or saying like, hey, I kind of really need this now. And yet it's like a survival skill for us when we're going through cancer, is that it's okay to seek out support and really knowing like what kind of support do I need. So like you're saying, I felt lonely, and just saying, hey, I just need to connect with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you'll hear that with like a new mom who just had a baby and feels super
Yeah.
isolated, so we know that this happens throughout life, not just in childhood cancer, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so what would you do in those circumstances? I do want to talk about your podcast,
Yay.
because I am so excited about this. When Emily had cancer, there was no, Facebook groups, there was no Instagram. I was very, very isolating, and I was really seeking out survivors because I didn't know anybody. And that was really tough. Right. And there were certainly no podcasts. And
Mm-hmm.
so can you kind of share like why you decided to do the podcast, what it's about? Because I do want to spend our last, kind of 10 minutes chatting about that, because I just think it's such a valuable resource.
Definitely. Well, first off, thanks so much for all those kind words. Yeah, I mean, this was something, I listened to a lot of podcasts. So this was something that kind of was rolling around in my brain when I was training for my half marathon.
And I just have to, I cannot believe that you trained for a half marathon while your kid is going through cancer. Like right there, I'm just like, okay, this one blows my mind.
You know what? I can't take the credit. It was actually my husband that was like, you know what, let's do this. And he's so sweet. He's like, even if I can't do it, because he went back to work. So of course, like everything was chaotic, but he's like, even if, I don't do it, I know that you're going to do it. And I'm like, darn right, I'm going to do it. I paid the registration, I'm going to do it. But yeah, it was actually very therapeutic for me to be able to allot that time where mom could just run and I could listen to, all the podcasts that I listened to. So that kind of inspired me to start my own podcast, because I was thinking like, oh, okay, a website would be nice, but I'm like, I don't have time to type everything, so then I was like, okay, we have a personal like Facebook page for my son and his progress. And it's been really nice and been very therapeutic for me to hear from strangers, basically, like a friend of a friend of a friend, just saying like, hey guys, we're rooting you on, or sharing in the great news. You've reached another milestone. That's wonderful. And just being able to have that emotional support in the background has really filled up my heart a lot. So I am a part of a private Facebook group page with parents that are worldwide who have children with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. And that has been wonderful. But I've started to go on it sparingly. In the beginning, I went on it a lot because I had so many questions, but now I'm kind of stepping away from it where I'm like, okay, not to say that, okay, I don't have to worry now, but I feel like I have so much knowledge and I want to share it and just pay it forward, because I picture the moms that are stuck in the hospital for days on end, like you were, Tara. And I remember just like laying in the hospital bed and I'm like, okay, Ollie's sleeping, but it's like 8 o'clock and I can't have any lights on because there's no divider wall in the hospital. So I was thinking, okay, if, a mom or dad or auntie or grandma is staying, they can listen to something and just know some of the resources that have worked really successfully for me. And I choose to focus on the things that are working well, not to say that, there are things that go awry, but I really want it to be a positive space, that it's something, for other parents to have in their toolkit and just literally have a voice in their ear saying like, I get it. I know
Yeah.
not exactly how you're feeling, but I've been in your shoes, stuck in the hospital, or, the unknowns of like allergic reactions, stuff like that. But it's been rolling around in my head trying to figure out, I feel like it's more of like a lifestyle that I'm living right now. It's not just focused on here's, something cancer specific that's helping us. Yes, the podcast I did obviously with you, Tara, about the book has been wonderful, but I think it's more of like a lifestyle that I'm going through right now because I am home with Ollie.
Yeah.
So, part of it is like doing an 8-minute workout, like 8 minutes to just work out and get your blood pumping. And it's 8 minutes. Like you could take a shower, in that time and you could get a workout in, and someone can watch your kid for 8 minutes.
Yeah.
So really just putting it, extending out the message of all the things that are helping me, because there's someone listening somewhere that hopefully it may help them. And I've been really fortunate enough to hear from a mom in the United Kingdom that reached out to me last week, and she was like, wow, like, thanks for the self-care episode. And I'm
I
like,
love
to be
it.
honest, that was me recording myself on my phone when Ollie was napping in our living room. So it's not like I have a fancy studio,
Yeah.
this is
And I
me
love that
learning how to
what
do
you're
the
saying is this is what
podcast.
I've been through, and now I'm going to help other people and pay that forward.
Yeah.
I think
And
that's why we connect so well with that mindset.
yeah. And
So,
my zodiac sign is a Cancer. So like, I want to be a helper. I really want to be
okay. So tell people, how can they find you? Because we're running out of time. I want to make sure you
Sure.
guys know
Oh
how
my
to
God, we
find
could
her.
talk forever. So you guys can find me. I have my podcast is on a couple different platforms, but the ones that you can access them on, that I think everybody can, is Apple Podcast. I'm also on Spotify and Google Podcasts, and it's All Mamma Care. So it's A.L.L Mamma, MAMMA, Care, CARE. And you can just search for it on those different platforms, or you can bounce over to Facebook. Now for Facebook, they're a little tricky because they didn't let me do the periods, but it's All Mamma Care on Facebook. And then on Instagram, it's A.L.L on Instagram. And I've linked up everything between Facebook and Instagram. And I'm thinking about starting a website, but I just don't have the bandwidth right now with everything that's going on. So yeah, definitely reach out to me there. And I've had a couple moms that have said, what about this topic? What about this? And I'm so open to it, because chances are, if they want to hear something about that, another parent
Other
wants to
people
hear
do.
about it too.
So people can subscribe to your station, and we'll link for you guys who are watching. We'll link, if you're watching this on Facebook or on YouTube, we'll be linking all of that in the comment section, so you can find Jackie and get subscribed to her station.
Wonderful.
And then please share that. It's one of the things that it's finding the families that are going through childhood cancer. So if you know another cancer mama, or you've got, you're part of a Facebook group, or you're part of a group, post that link in there, share these resources, because I know for both of us, it's trying to find these resources, trying to find what's out there. And so you might be watching this, but you're part of a community that you could say, hey, I just listened to this podcast, or I watched this webinar, check out these resources. So,
and to that point, Terry, because I am on the Worldwide Parent Facebook page, and just asking admin, hey, is this appropriate? Can I post it? And just kind of asking them ahead of time, and they were fine with it. So literally every week I'm like, hey guys, and there's like 1,000 people or more than 1,000 people in the group. And again, I don't care about the numbers of people listening. It's more therapeutic for me to get all this information out of my brain and out in the world, because unfortunately there's going to be someone down the road that I feel in my heart will be able to get something from it.
Yeah. And there is something different. And we've talked about, there's something different hearing from another cancer parent. You could be the most amazing child life specialist, the most amazing therapist. You could be an oncologist doctor who's helped, countless families. But I think when we hear from another parent, we just hear it differently, because it's like, okay, I know that you get what I'm going through on a different level. And that's what I love about your podcast. Like, yes, you're bringing in the experts, but they're getting to hear from a mom who's going through it, who gets it, who understands, the fear and the frustration and the grief. And, you started with, when we started talking about kind of coming to terms, there's a grief, right? There's a grief of, no matter how your child does on the other side, there's a loss of this innocence and this loss of this childhood. Yeah. And there's a grieving process for that, of going, it's going to be different.
And also just knowing that, grief, obviously everybody responds to it differently, and there's no linear path with that. You could be up one week, and then the next week it just hits you. So being, graceful with yourself, and knowing like, okay, today we're going to be gentle. And I'll even say that with Ollie. If he wakes up and he's in a cranky mood, I'm like, you know what? We're going to be gentle with ourselves today, and voicing that. And then just recognizing that, yeah, today's going to be a little tough, but we're going to get through it. And, tomorrow's a new day, or, right after nap time, when you wake up, that's a fresh start. So.
And what's really cool is these are like life skills that have nothing to do with childhood cancer, but will greatly, greatly impact your life. And hopefully, guys, what you're getting from listening to Jackie is that she's very focused on raising a survivor. And it's a very different mindset when we're raising our children to just kind of get them through that crisis and letting them have whatever they want and letting them behave however they want, versus saying, okay, I'm thinking about who you're going to be on the other side of this. And I want to make sure that on the other side of this, you are a thriving child. And that's a very powerful perspective. You know, it's one of the things that I hear from certified child life experts all the time, is that, you know, parents kind of let kids do whatever they want, and then they end up with these little terrors. And it's, if we can kind of step back and go, okay, but who do I want that person to be? And that's what you're setting Ollie up for success of. Obviously, you know, none of us control the outcome of treatment, but the mindset is we're here to win, right? I think we always have to have that mindset. Like, we're here to win. We're in the trenches, and we're focused on how we're going to come out on the other side as a family, as a couple. I mean, it sounds like you and your husband are working on your marriage to come out stronger. Like, how do we come out stronger as a couple? How do we come out stronger as a family? How do I come out stronger as a mom? So that, yes, there's a grief, but there's going to be so many great gifts of who you guys are on the other side of this, and who Ollie is on the other side of that. And I loved that. Today, we're just going to be gentle.
And that's what, that was
so beautiful.
You know, that's a process. I mean, we're 8 months into treatment, and, you know, if you go back on the Facebook page, I mean, there are times I'm just sobbing. So it's definitely a process, and everybody's grief trajectory is different. And just being aware, I think, just as a parent, being able to name the emotion that you're feeling, going back to basics. I'm feeling anxious, versus letting yourself keep going, like, stop. Like, I'm feeling this emotion right now, and just really recognizing it, you know. And even I'm doing it with Ollie right now. Like, oh, you know, you feel upset. Do you feel happy? Like, naming that emotion is really helpful for me, and it's different for everybody. But catching myself right before the anxiety starts, and being able to be like, okay, hold on, like, what's reality versus the story that's in my head, you know?
Oh yeah. Cause we can run down that fear trail, and it's like, whoosh, we have to stop that. So as we kind of finish up, Jackie, what would be like your one best tip? Like, maybe something that you wish you had realized early on that, you know, now you kind of can see at 8 months, something that for that family who's kind of like, okay, I would love to be able to incorporate more of what you're doing, but I'm just really struggling. You know, what was your one best tip that you could leave us with?
Yeah. So one best tip would really just be like, come to terms with what's happening. Come to terms with what's happening, and realize that it's out of your control, but figure out, and it's really hard in the moment to figure out what you need to move forward. But be graceful when you're in the brain fog, because I was in it for months, and I couldn't even, it was like having a newborn. Like, nothing made sense. So just know that it's not forever, and you will get out of it, but it may take longer than other people. And this is your story. This is your child's story. Don't ever compare it to anybody else's story, because every child is so different. Every treatment is different, how they respond to it. This is your story. And focus on that, and just know, but that's not my child. You know, like, be graceful that the other families are going through that, but continue to bring it back to, this is my child, this is our story, this is our family, and this is what we're doing. And just bringing it back, like, right to home base.
And so hopefully you guys can see why I am just such a huge fan of Jackie and what she's doing, and just her grace and her heart. And so I hope that you really do get connected and just listen to every podcast that she has coming out. Send her suggestions of what you would like her to be talking about, what you would want to see on that. And just to have somebody that you can connect to on a regular basis, and know that she kind of gets where you are and what you're going through, and wants to be able to offer her wisdom and her support as somebody who's walked down that path. So thank you for being with us on the Wednesday webinar. You can connect with everything in the links below, and we will see you next week. Bye.
All right, take care. Bye.